Good morning, my beautiful babes and babettes. I am your resident active advocate, and it's my niece's birthday today! Yay! One of my nieces, anyway. I've got two. And she's 6, and that's amazing, because you can't count that on one hand. You need 2 hands to do it, and I'm so proud of her. So, today, I wanted to talk about the therapeutic route of contending with depression. Now, therapy is not for everyone. It won't necessarily work for everyone, but it's another part of the support system that you are capable of building up for yourself. The thing about therapy is that people who don't recognize that they need help will not go to therapy, and no one can force them to do it. I really don't recommend forcing someone into therapy because that just doesn't work with the psyche. It's more of a case of, no, I'm fine, and I don't need to do this, so I'm just going to sit here and not talk. And that's a waste both of your money, if you're American, and of the therapist's time, and of your time, and that's not a good thing. But another aspect of the American health system is that therapy can be quite expensive, so far as I have heard. So, unfortunately, a lot of people, even when they feel capable of talking to another person about this, and specifically to a professional, a lot of people in America, where depression is probably at its highest rate, will not be able to afford a therapist, which is really unfortunate because it's often not covered by insurance as well. And the problem with that is that, the more you isolate from your surrounding community, the more you are forced to do that, and the less help you are capable of getting, the longer it's going to take for you to be able to control your own symptoms. A lot of the time, symptoms cannot be controlled just by drugs. There is such a thing as drug-resistant depression, and that, I believe, is especially true of bipolar depression, but I'm not entirely sure on that. Do not trust me when it comes to sheer medical facts. I'm more of a qualitative person than a quantitative person. I mean, in the sense that I'm more about people than I am about the science. So I would encourage you definitely to look up your own resources about what medications are out there, but don't self-medicate, for God's sake. You have to get a prescription from a doctor. But in terms of going to therapy and speaking to another human being about what's going on, and especially if they are a professional, if you are capable of doing this, it's probably going to help you. It might ease a bit of what's on your mind, because one of the symptoms of depression not only is chronic apathy, but also this spinning feeling that nothing ever changes, nothing will ever change. I can't change my own situation. No one is going to help me. It's this whole stuck in a rut feeling that people get. And therapy can, to some degree at least, bring you out of that rut. Just talking to another human being about what's going on inside your head can help you to escape that cycle, spinning feeling that you have. And it can also help you to lift yourself up, to give yourself a bit of a break and say, this is not my fault, this is not my doing. I am not weak, I am not helpless. It's not my fault that this is happening. This is happening because of chemical imbalances. This could be happening to do with something in your environment, or several things in your environment. Depression does not have a singular cause much of the time. There are going to be chemical reinforcers and environmental reinforcers of what's going on inside your head. And the two ways fundamentally of helping to ease those symptoms are medications and talk therapy. Now, within therapy itself, though, there is this talking aspect, as I mentioned, but there's also something known as cognitive behavioral therapy. And I've mentioned this before with what I called the toolbox method. That's what my therapist at the time called it. I only ever needed a therapist for about a year. Um, what happened with me was actually a momentary imbalance of probably chemical reactions inside my brain because I had suffered some trauma. And like, there was no environmental reinforcement of what was going on inside my head. All the people around me were very supportive, and I did have many people on my side. It was all just a matter of distancing myself from what had happened in the past, and therapy helped me to move on from it. I remember that there was one session where basically I just sat and cried for the first maybe 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes of the session. And the thing is, they'll let you do that. They're not going to sit there judging you. They're going to sit there and wait until you are okay enough to talk about what's going on inside your own mind. It's not their job to judge, it's their job to help. And that is different from other people around you who are not in your social circle and who you think will probably judge you based on your perceived weakness or whatever. I'm going to address that topic tomorrow. Actually, I want to address the perception of depression through what I referred to before as the moral model, because a lot of the judgment passed upon depression has to do with the so called moral model, which we just can't seem to get out of yet. Hopefully, we can work our way out of it by fostering greater understanding, by forming more connections, by having people around to talk to and who are willing to talk back and not in a condescending way. So, as I have stated several times in this series, the whole point of what I am doing is to try and foster understanding between different kinds of people groups, the disabled versus the non disabled, and it's very important that we understand one another so that we are capable of better handling one another's situations. And I don't mean handle in the you need help, you need to be treated like a child, like you are not capable of caring for yourself. That's not what I mean. When I say handle, I mean getting inside of one another's heads so that we can understand what's going on and why. And that's especially true of mental health, not even as much for physical health, but for mental health because it's an invisible disability. A lot of people don't know how to judge because that would be perceived as foreign ground. If you can't see it, because most people are fundamentally visual, then either it doesn't exist or the person's putting it on, or you don't really know what it is you're supposed to do to help because you can't see it even if they can feel it, and even if it affects them on a very personal level. I mean, even on the physical level, because there can be physical symptoms of depression as well, eating too much, eating too little, sleeping too much, sleeping too little, those sorts of things. But tomorrow, I would like to talk about how the surrounding people who are not in the support system can better their own understanding in terms of people with depression who are around them, because there's going to be a lot of them, and especially right now when we're all isolated from one another, and people just don't seem to have a desire to get up and do anything unless they are so compelled, by having work to do, by having, people around to take care of and who take care of them. We need one another. We are a fundamentally social species. And, being sociable is a way of easing depression. And even therapy, even if it's a one on one sort of thing, I'm not even talking about group therapy, that can be a form of sociability because your therapist can become like a friend to you. I know that it is not actually advised and it's actually a big no-no within the medical community to have relationships with your clients outside of that working relationship. But within that working relationship can be that form of understanding that I'm talking about. But tomorrow I'm going to talk about people who are not compelled to keep you at arm's length because of medical professionalism. And we will talk about that tomorrow. Thank you for your attention and your lovely presence. You're all wonderful and beautiful, and I love you. Okay. Mwah.